I'm sure most of you use Instagram this day and age. Whether you have a big following or none at all, it's just something most of society uses. Apparently the app has over 1 billion active users, which I find insane. I had about 300 followers at the time this happened. I live in a rural town, so I guess that's a lot for people around us. We don't know a lot of people outside of our districts. One night watching a movie, my phone vibrated. It said a girl named Holly started following me on Instagram. So I opened up Instagram to check out her profile. And she was this really gorgeous blonde girl with like 5,000 followers. She had about 50 pictures. They were all spaced out realistically as far as the dates they were posted. Usually when I get followers like this, I'll check to make sure they're actually legit. She got like 600 likes per picture and a bunch of comments from guys I assume she didn't even know, leaving hearts and drooling emojis and whatever. Then, I kid you not, as I was going through her page, before I even followed her back, she DM'd me. She said, "Hey, I honestly don't do this a lot, but I thought you're really cute." To be honest, and not to sound like a douche, I am pretty fit and I've been told I'm pretty attractive. And I have had some girls DM me in the past. So I followed her back and DM'd her the same, saying I think you're cute too. Then we went on to have a pretty long conversation, but it was going really well. We talked about fitness and what high schools we went to, and honestly was great. She gave me her number, and we quickly got to setting up a meetup for the next night, which was a Friday night. We agreed we'd meet at a popular bar called Lucky's for a couple drinks. So Friday night, as the nerves are starting to kick in, I prepare myself for this little date. Never had I gone on a date straight from an Instagram DM, but this girl was downright gorgeous. I drove down to Lucky's and sat in my car in the parking lot, awaiting her call or text to let me know she was there. Eventually she did text me, but not to let me know she was there. She said her car broke down and she needed a ride. I had to reread it a couple times to be sure I was reading it correctly. I tried calling her, but she didn't accept the call. She texted me describing her location. I didn't answer just yet. I took one more good look at her Instagram profile, and it was definitely real. She had friends tagged in her pictures, commenting on her pictures, so I knew I wasn't getting catfished. I texted back on my way, and off I went. I drove down the quiet side roads towards the location she described. I made it, but it was a weird spot for her car to have broken down. I saw a car pulled off to the side of the road next to the woods. Actually, there were woods on either side of this road. The car had its hood open, so it had to be her. I tried calling, but it didn't go through. I looked at my phone and realized I had no bars here. I parked my car on the other side of the road and got out. As I walked over to her car, which was a black Nissan Altima, I realized I couldn't see inside of it at all. The windows were completely tinted black. I lightly tapped on the window and waited. No one opened the door, so I walked around to the front hood, just to see if she had attempted to do any work on the engine, I guess. As far as I could tell, she didn't. I was losing patience. I texted her, "Where are you? I'm about to leave." As I walked back to the side of the car, I noticed the driver's side window had now been cracked down. I knew for a fact they were all shut a minute ago. I called Holly's name, knowing someone had to be in the car now. As I walked a little closer to get a look inside, someone's fist reached out from the window, and they started signaling for me to come closer with their pointer finger. I felt my stomach drop, realizing it was definitely a man's hand. I told him in a shaky voice, "Get lost," as I ran back to my car. I sped away and made the first right turn off the street I could. Because of my constant glances in the rearview mirror, I eventually spotted a car with its lights off trailing behind me. I thought to do the same. I turned off the lights on my car and started making as many turns as possible, and eventually I did lose the car. When I got home, the profile had already blocked me, but I found out at a later date that that profile was in fact real, but that the girl in the pictures was hacked by some creepy dude, and I wasn't even this only guy's victim of whatever plan he had. I just hope everyone else was as fortunate as me. I have an Instagram account with 1,100 followers. I had it set to public so anybody could come onto my page and look at my pictures, like them, and comment on them. So oftentimes I'd get people I didn't know liking my pictures and commenting on them. But one person stood out from the rest. I remember his first comment on one of my photos. It was a beach picture with one of my friends, so I was wearing a swimsuit. I had like 11 comments on it, but one of them was from somebody I didn't know. It was 3 flame emojis. I clicked the man's profile. He had 3 pictures, 80 followers, and he was following over 200 people, including me. All 3 of his pictures were of him, selfies, which didn't look right given that he looked like he was 40 or 50. I didn't mind though, it's expected to happen to a certain extent. However, after that photo, it started becoming a thing where the man would just comment on every new photo I posted. One comment just said hot. This one was a little creepier, honestly. But then 2 days later, after posting my next picture, the man didn't comment this time. Instead, he sent me a direct message. It said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you're beautiful, even though I'm like 30 years older than you, LOL. I responded, LOL thanks, which I'm surprised I did. Most people would have probably ignored it. He got back to me with, I would kill to meet a girl like you. I replied 10 minutes later with thanks, hoping he wouldn't say anything else. But he got back to me with, maybe one day I'll meet you, ... LOL. I didn't reply to that one. I found everything about the guy creepy, but I didn't block him. I figured, why get rid of a free follow and likes? I hadn't heard from him until I posted a new photo. This one of my sister Carol and I in front of our house. The man commented quickly on the photo, saying, "You and your sister are so cute." Now it was becoming too much for me, so I removed the comment and blocked him. Later in the day, Carol and I were home alone. I was in the bathroom doing my nails, getting ready to go out. I noticed a car I didn't recognize pull up in front of the house through the window. But only the front. The rest of the car was covered by the bush that separates our front yard from the neighbors. The headlight shut off, but I didn't see anyone step out of the car. I took note of this only because we're on a dead-end block, so we don't get any through traffic. I shut the blind just because I was on full display. My sister was in her room on her laptop when the time came for me to leave. I didn't bother saying goodbye. Usually we just text each other that we're going out anyway. I went to my car, looking at the mysterious car, which revealed to be a Maxima. The tinted windows mixed with the darkness of the night made it impossible to see inside of it. I got in my car, did a 3-point turn, and drove down the one-sided street to the nearest main road. I went to a social gathering at a friend's house. I wouldn't call it a party, but a decent amount of drinking went on. I cut myself off a little early since I knew I had to drive, but still, I'll admit, and I don't condone this kind of behavior whatsoever, I was pretty tipsy when I was driving home. It was only a 5-minute drive though. I pulled up to my house, and the first thing I noticed was the Maxima still parked out front. I needed to know whose car was that. I passed it slowly, but still couldn't see inside of it. I parked and texted a few friends that I got home safe before stepping outside and walking up to my house. I was eyeing that car parked out front all the way up to the front door, where I dropped my keys. At which point, for whatever reason, I was too scared to bend over and look for them. Instead, I rang the doorbell like 5 times so my sister would answer quickly. She never answered the door though, so I was forced to get on my knees and look for the keys. They actually landed right on the doormat. I opened the door and went inside pretty swiftly, taking one last look at the Maxima before shutting the door. It was past midnight, but my sister was usually still up this late, so I dizzily but quietly walked up the stairs and down the hall towards her door. And oddly enough, it was wide open, but the lights were out. Maybe she went out for once. I crept into the room, and my heart skipped a beat as my mind tried to put together the faint noise I was hearing. It took me a while to realize it was a whisper. The whisper of my sister.
was coming from the closet. The closet was cracked open, and I saw my sister peeping her eyes through the crack. She was visibly shaken and appeared to be crying. I knelt down next to her and opened the closet all the way, whispering, "What's going on?" She didn't say anything though. She just kept putting her finger on her lips, telling me to be quiet. I tugged at her arm to pull her out of the closet, and when she was out, I pushed the closet shut quietly. This revealed my sister's room again, as well as somebody clear as day standing direct center in my sister's room. I don't know if he was facing us or not, but that didn't matter because we both wailed as we ran together. I felt the vibrations of the man stomping close behind us. We went straight for the car. I was able to lock the doors without even a second to spare before the man chasing us tried the door handle. When he realized it was locked, he started bashing at the window with his shoulder, all while my sister was screaming and wailing, making the matter worse. Through the intensity of the situation, I still was able to make the connection. It was the same man who had been stalking me on Instagram. I had to do a 3-point turn, but all the while I was honking the horn to get as much attention as possible from the neighbors. I think it worked because he got into his car, which turned out to be the Maxima, and did a 3-point turn as well. At first we thought he was tailing us, but instead he booked it past us and down another street to never be seen again. At that point, we just turned around and went back to the house. I called our parents and then the police. The police were able to find out how the man broke in, through an upstairs window. He climbed up a ladder onto the awning and boosted himself up to the windowsill. I told the police about how he was stalking me on Instagram and must have somehow found my address when I posted my most recent picture with my sister, which included my house number. I tried to help them by giving the man's Instagram account, but when I went to the blocked accounts section, it was empty. That meant that the man already deleted his Instagram. Therefore, even if there is a way for Instagram to track deleted users, it didn't matter because I didn't remember the man's username. So I hate to say it, but there was nothing the police could do, and I knew it. I've since set my Instagram to private and really only accept follow requests from people I know now. I'm also a lot more paranoid and wary of posting revealing photos. I came across something recently that has been freaking me the hell out. Before I get into my discovery, let me just get into a little backstory that makes the discovery even more disturbing. For the past few weeks or so, on several occasions, while either trying to sleep in my bed or doing something in my room with a light on at night, I would hear a single, faint yet audible tap on my window. I hardly want to call it a tap, because none of the sounds really resembled an intentional tap. It sounded more so like something accidentally being scraped or pressed against the glass very briefly. At first I thought it was just bugs flying into the window, but as the same sound kept happening at least 2 or 3 times a week, I started to get freaked out by it. So I told my dad, and he of course told me it's nothing, probably just bugs like I initially thought. So nothing happened for a few nights. But then, I got a text from a friend. Well, not a friend, just some guy I used to have a class with who somehow coerced me into giving him my number. He said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. We used to have a class together. I just wanted to let you know about this. I stumbled upon it by accident, and if you're unaware of it, that's pretty disturbing." Then he added a link to the bottom of the message. I pressed it, and it took me to an Instagram page. The page was titled JP Unofficial. Those were my initials, but that wasn't the first thing I noticed. The first thing I noticed was the profile picture, which was me. And then, the 45 pictures uploaded to that account were all of me. They weren't like pictures that I took though, they were all candid. I mean, like, they were pictures I never even knew were taken. Some were of me at the beach, some were of me sitting in my car, but the newer ones got even weirder. Some were of me in my backyard, and then the worst ones were the most recent. There were pictures of me in my room, taken from outside my window. Some of me sitting on my bed doing homework or texting, others of me standing, with one even of me in my underwear. I felt sick. I felt like crying and throwing up. All of the pictures had at least 2 or 3 likes. Some had comments, but not comments pointing out how wrong this is. They were comments encouraging it, saying things like, "Go for it," or "hot," or "what I'd do if I could get my hands on her." The captions on the photos too. They were all things like "the love of my life," or "she went to the beach today," or "I just like to watch her." My mouth was twitching as a tear rolled down my face. I was so disturbed, I can't even describe the emotions I was feeling. And then, there was a sound again at the window. The sound. The unintentional scrape or tap. And then it clicked. It made sense now. When I put 2 and 2 together, I simply snapped. I lost it and screamed louder than I'd ever screamed before. My dad came rushing in with open arms to hug me and ask what's wrong. I showed him the Instagram page and explained the taps at the window. Well, explained is a stretch. I was a mess and could barely speak clearly. My dad's expression went from gentle to horrified to downright angry. He rushed outside screaming, making a scene for the neighbors, looking for the stalker. He then came inside and called the police. I gave the police the Instagram account and requested they track it as soon as possible. Law enforcement put the request into Instagram. By the time it was received, the account was deleted, but it didn't matter because Instagram was still able to recover the info, and the usage was traced to an old iPod Touch. Unfortunately, the device was untraceable. It was either destroyed or it had its Wi-Fi turned off permanently. My dad saw how messed up I was, and he plans on moving us out of the house within the month. Luckily, there haven't been any new sounds, but I've also made sure to keep all my blinds shut 24/7 and always make sure I'm not being tailed while driving. All I could think to say to everybody is keep your Instagram private and always be alert to your surroundings.